So I know I've been saying this a lot, but Boruto changed the timeline again. This time in the most badass way possible. So in this video, we're not only going to discuss how the timeline changed and how it'll affect the story going forward, but also what events led up to this point. So be sure to like the video, maybe subscribe if you're feeling a little generous. I do these kinds of videos extremely often, so if any time throughout this video you feel like this is your cup of tea, then stick around. Promise you won't regret it. But yeah, video time. Let's get it. So the Sunagakare arc is wrapping up. We're about to shift to another big part of the story. So I'm really curious, what did you guys think about this arc? Rated 1 to 10. I don't think it was bad, to be honest. A lot of ups and downs. We didn't have the most interesting villain. Like I said before, and I'm gonna stick with what I believe, Ryu was the least interesting Shinju out the bunch. That doesn't make him a bad antagonist per se. It's just that the others are so damn good. But I'm glad it's over. Especially the Konohamaru and Matsuri situation. That whole encounter was running me dry. It ended at the right moment. And the one person to end it was the one that was going to end it all along. Ikimoto showed it to us right to our faces in chapter 17. And we still had some people saying that Boruto wasn't going to have anything to do with this battle. And he did it in the absolute craziest way possible. Kashin Koji has been telling Boruto for about 4 chapters now that he cannot help anyone in Sunagakare. He can't even go there because of the high possibility he attracts Jura to the scene. The Shinju all share senses with each other, so if any of them sees Boruto with their Rinnegan, Jura will instantly know his location and he can just teleport there using the claw marks. So Koji, knowing this, obviously didn't want Boruto to get involved because of the vision he's seen of him getting killed by the hands of Jura. Yet, because Koji didn't want to tell Boruto about anything that occurred in Sunagakare, this heavily damaged the trust they had between one another. So it really gets to a point. If you're gonna keep treating Boruto like a kid, he's not gonna listen to you anymore. That's why he disobeyed his wishes and went to save Konohamaru. Now that Boruto left to the land of wind, Matsuri seen him right before he killed her for good. And now Jura knows his exact location. So he's probably gonna slither out of one of Matsuri's chopped up body parts in order to get there. Now, here's the thing. It's easy enough to get Konohamaru out of this situation. I think Boruto will tell him to grab the Thorn Soul from Matsuri's body and run away before Jura appears. Will Jura just sit back and let that happen? I don't know. Especially because I think he'll be too focused on the presence of Boruto. They might be successful in defeating both Ryu and Matsuri and getting their Thorn Souls. But as for Boruto, for him to get out this situation alive, he's gonna have to do what everyone would describe as impossible and defy fate itself. Before Boruto left, Kashin Koji said he's seen several patterns that led up to Boruto's death by the hands of Jura. The way he said it leads me to believe that there could be more directions this encounter could go, and some directions could lead to Boruto surviving, but the chances of that happening is probably so low that Koji didn't even think it would be worth mentioning. But all this time, ever since chapter 1 of TBV VORTEX, the timeline has been constantly changing and evolving. It changed so much to the point where I don't even know what's gonna happen in the next chapter anymore. I don't know because there's so many options that legit could happen. Koji said it himself, for the better or for the worst, to know the future leads to the act of destroying it. And we've been seeing them do just that. In chapter 1, you send Boruto to Konoha to deal with Code, and at least attempt to stop the birth of the Shinju. Now, who knows what happened in the original timeline? When I say original timeline, I mean the timeline where Boruto died by Jura. This is an alternate timeline because it got shifted so much. It's not the same timeline anymore. I mean, if you watch Dragon Ball Z, in the original timeline, all the Z fighters been defeated by the androids. Nobody lived past the android saga. It was because Trunks came back to the past and warned them about the androids that they was able to survive. And that act alone created a separate timeline than the original one. So remember, when you alter the past, you're not changing the future. You're just making a separate timeline. The timeline where Boruto died and is now gone, somewhere out there, it still exists. But we're on a separate timeline where Boruto lives because of Kashin Koji. So with that being said, most likely Koji wasn't involved in the original timeline because it was Koji's awakening of prescience what caused the timeline to shift so frequently. So if Boruto didn't have Koji by his side, would he even know about Code's assault? Who stops Code from wreaking havoc in Konoha if Boruto doesn't appear? How many casualties are in place because of Boruto's absence? No, don't say SARADA. Even though she would destroy Code in this timeline, without her MS, she just wouldn't be able to do it. And who knows if she'll be able to activate her MS in that fight alone. And Kawaki, who you can argue didn't improve all that much throughout the time skip, I don't know if he can replicate what he did to Code in part 1, especially with his limiters removed. So Boruto was the only one capable of giving Code this monumental whooping and sending him away. This alone was a massive change to the timeline. Just like how Koji explained how if Ishiki killed Naruto, he would have ended up resurrecting inside of Kawaki's body and planted a divine tree. Or how about if Kawaki killed Boruto and Sarada, he would go on to lose to Code, who is tremendously stronger than him. So I don't know if this was more so directed to when Code was supposed to invade Konoha, or maybe he fights Code sometime throughout the time skip similar to Boruto and Sasuke, but the fact still stands. Even Koji's foresight had Kawaki losing to Code. So that's proof right there. Boruto had an impact on the timeline even before the events of TBV VORTEX. Now let's move on to more events. How about one of the more important things to happen recently? And believe it or not, it all started back in chapter 6. This was the chapter when Mitski first attacked Boruto since returning back to the village. Now this changed the timeline in a multitude of ways, but let's just start with the most obvious. It allowed Mitski to trust Boruto again. More specifically, towards the end of chapter 7 when Boruto defeated Mitski and made him realize how deceived he's been for the last few years. This realization made Mitski believe in his son again. It made him want to help and protect Boruto. And because this happened right here, eventually when Boruto was arrested by Konoha, he helped him escape by faking a crash out and freeing him of his handcuffs. And that allowed him to escape. Let's take it a step further, because this whole operation didn't just start in chapter 6. If we want to be technical, it started because of Shikamaru's emerging trust in Boruto. And what set that off is Boruto chasing Code out of Konoha. So there you have it. Boruto's actions in chapter 1 is still affecting him now. So now because Mitski trusted Boruto enough to free him, he was able to meet with Kawaki and forge a deal with him to help each other defeat the Shinju. And in this conversation, Boruto was able to tell Kawaki about his limiters. Why was it necessary to tell Kawaki about his limiters? Like why? Like why make the one person that you have to fight at the end stronger? Boruto knows he's gonna have to fight Kawaki. Why make your job more tough? And it's for one single reason. Because in most future conclusions that Koji told us, Kawaki being the reason the planet ended was a common denominator. Whether it's because he let an OTSUTSUKI play inside of his body, or he gets devoured. 8 times out of 10, the world ends because of him. So first and foremost, for any plan to work, he has to get stronger. And Koji knew this. That's why he planned this whole thing out. He worked diligently and planned correctly so that this would be the timeline that came into fruition. But it could never happen without Mitski and Shikamaru's trust. Now, I do not know if this happened in the original timeline, but if I had to guess, I'm gonna say it did not happen. I'm gonna say Boruto died because he didn't have any help, or more like nobody in that timeline could offer any help against Jura because they were just so weak. What's different about this timeline in the original timeline is simply preparation. Kashin Koji told Boruto that Jura was supposed to be the one to end his life. But that prediction came before Sarada awoke into her new MS powers, it came before Kawaki got his limiters removed, it came before Himawari found out she had the damn Nine Tails power inside of her. So you see what I mean? A lot happened since Koji's seen that happening. So who's to say that a vision that Koji told Boruto a year or 2 ago still has any real relevance? You planted a number of seeds that could come back and help you during this desperate time. And I think that could be a very realistic possibility for chapter 22. Also, I mean, let's be realistic for a second, fellas. No matter what occurs, I'm pretty sure Boruto is not gonna die during this encounter. And that's from a story standpoint. He literally cannot die here. And also, not only a story standpoint, but a narrative one too. Prescience by itself will prevent Boruto's death. I doubt the Boruto that died to Jura actually knew he was destined to die in that moment. I don't think some people fully understand the impact of knowing how you're gonna die, or let's say when you're gonna die. Apply it to a real life setting. If you knew ahead of time when something bad was gonna happen, even if you couldn't avoid it, I guarantee you'll be way more prepared for it ahead of time. And that's besides him getting any assistance in this fight. Because Boruto knows information about the future. The way he's gonna be moving during this predicament is gonna be way more cautious and attentive of certain things that happened during the battle, especially after his and Jura's first encounter when we first thought he was supposed to die. Look, the way I see it, this could go a few ways. Because of the timeline shifting, things could be very different. And that could be someone coming to help Boruto, someone giving him an opening to escape, or someone else dying in his stead. The number one likely outcome I see happening is Kawaki finally making an appearance to assist Boruto in this fight. Just think about it. We haven't seen Kawaki now for about 3 chapters. In those 3 chapters, it could have given him enough time for Amato to remove his limiters, and for Shikamaru to inform him on the situation in Sunagakare. And it would also be a very good introduction for this new Kawaki. You could have the first time we see him in this battle. Afterwards, we could get a flashback to the process of him getting his limiters removed, or if Ikimoto wants to go that direction. Now, if you're Boruto, this would be the best possible outcome, because not only would him and Kawaki be the strongest options to throw at Jura, but they would be the most rested characters too. And if Kawaki is in this fight, the chances of Boruto's survival skyrockets massively. My only hope is that Koji is able to see this potential timeline now that Boruto has took that direction. Now moving on to the other possibility, and that's Momoshiki. Now this is another highly likely scenario, and I already went into detail on this outcome in another video, so if you want to hear me talk a whole video's worth on that topic alone, then click the link in the top right corner of your screen. But as it pertains to Momoshiki, there's a big reason we'll see him in this fight, and that's due to the mere fact that Jura is trying to kill Boruto. In order to protect his vessel, Momoshiki will take action. He's not going to sit back and let Boruto die. Remember, Boruto is his only connection to the world of the living. If he dies, then all Momoshiki's plans die as well, and his soul will perish from this world. So that fact alone is why a Momoshiki takeover is so likely. And if that happens, in a way, it's like Boruto will die. You see, that's a big problem with the situation. We know Koji and Momoshiki has powers that let them peek into the future, although in different ways. They can still gain information from looking into the future. In Momoshiki's case, he can specifically only look into Boruto's future, or whoever he gazes at with his Byakugan. So if Boruto was to actually die by Jura's hand, would Momoshiki not have seen it already? And maybe if he did, he can do something to avoid that outcome. So yeah, that's a big issue. How does Koji's and Momoshiki's foresight play a factor in this situation? And if everything goes according to how Momoshiki plans, then he should be able to take over Boruto's body and help him fight against Jura. Now, there's also the possibility of the members of the Sunagakare mission helping Boruto, but they probably wouldn't make too much of a difference in that fight. The only person who can make a difference is probably SARADA, who's just unconscious right now, so I guess it really depends if she wakes up on time to assist Boruto. But I don't really like that outcome because it doesn't give Boruto an opening to escape if he actually needs to. I'm pretty sure I don't have to explain it, but if Boruto leaves, it's not gonna make Jura leave as well. Someone is gonna have to fight him. And plus, Jura now knows a good way to lure Boruto out of hiding through his friends. For Boruto to get out the situation, he would need to be accompanied by an equally strong ally to help him push Jura back and create an opening for both his friends and himself to escape. Meaning him and Kawaki could create an opportunity for everyone else to evacuate the area, and then they could deal with Jura however they plan to. Or they could just escape as well. Boruto can just use Flying Raijin to get him and Kawaki away if they so please. But first, they need to create that opening for everyone else to escape, or it'll all be for nothing. And then there's Momoshiki taking over Boruto's body to fight Jura. No matter what outcome we're getting, I think Boruto has a very high chance of surviving, especially because of the changes he already made to the timeline. Right off the bat, I do believe we'll be getting a little conversation between Boruto and Jura, and after that, the fighting will commence. So this is not really how the fight will start, but as far as how I think it'll end, I think that has a high chance of happening. So anyway, let me know all your thoughts and ideas down below in the comment section. I'm really interested in what you guys think, because no matter what I say, you'll have people who agree and disagree. So please don't hold back. But anyway, as always, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this in the near future, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss another video like this or when I go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later. And I'm out. Peace.